Hello, and welcome to another episode of Boundless Body Radio. I'm your host, Casey Ruff, and today we have another amazing guest to introduce to you now. Pablo Kelly is a 9-plus-year survivor of one of the most aggressive forms of brain cancer, glioblastoma, which typically carries with it only 3 months average survival after diagnosis without conventional treatment, and an average of only 15 to 18 months with complete surgical resection, chemotherapy, and radiation. Not liking those odds, Pablo decided to look for alternate approaches to the treatment, discovered the ketogenic diet, and eventually found the work of Professor Thomas Seyfried of Boston College, a former podcast guest who we've hosted twice on episodes 60 and 363 of Boundless Body Radio. Pablo used his research into diet cancer treatment to heavily influence the progression of his condition. Called Ketogenic Metabolic Therapy, the method has a growing body of literature and data to support its use in cancers of all sorts as a complement to, or potentially even as a standalone therapy. In combination with traditional treatments, it has been shown to increase the safety and efficacy of both chemotherapy and radiation, as it can starve out the cancer cells from their necessary fuels, including glucose, which cancer cells need at the rate of 400 times more of that of normal cells. You can find Pablo on his website at www.pablosbrainjourney.com. Pablo Kelly, what an absolute honor it is to welcome you to Boundless Body Radio.
It's nice to meet you. Yeah.
It's really nice to meet you too. What an amazing story. I have been aware of your story for quite a while now, and it's such an honor to finally get to talk to you. We are definitely going to deep dive into your story. But before we do, I want to highlight an episode that I did that we mentioned in the introduction, episode 363 with Dr. Thomas Seyfried, our second time talking to him. And he said something that I found so chilling. I ended up putting it as the title of the episode because I wanted to grab people's attention. Cancer is a revenue-creating disease. Cancer creates revenue. What do you think of when you hear that?
I agree wholeheartedly, because I've been doing this for 9 years, changing my metabolic approach for 9 years, surviving something I should not have survived. They said 6 to 9 months to live if I did not do standard of care. And no one has said to me, what are you doing? Can we put it into our practice? As an oncologist, they just tell me I'm lucky. I'm a lucky individual, and there's nothing to back me up, basically, to say that what I'm doing could help everybody. And the fact is, you can't make money out of food. I mean, you can, obviously. Ketogenic industry is taking off quite abundantly with people selling products that aren't really good for you. But, that's the same with anything. People need to make money, and I find that the lack of caring is the biggest issue in the medical establishment.
Yeah, it's really a shame.
It's a business. Hospitals run on funding from governments, and governments are funded by corporations. So it's backwards. There's no real caring or health involved, or love, in fact.
Yeah. No, it's again, it's chilling, but it's interesting that you say it that way, and I want people to think of it more of that way. If you were a business, what would you do? You would want to create customers. You create customers when you get them on your product very early and keep them on for a very long time. And that's the reality of it. These things are business. And if everybody started eating ketogenic or low carb diets, these businesses, these whole industries would probably collapse.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's the way they see it. It's a big threat to their organizations and their money, because money, it doesn't even matter in the way that we believe it does. It has complete control over everything we do. I am currently, because I can't physically work, if I was to do a day-to-day job, I'd have seizures, I'd have stress, I'd probably end up dying because of the stress. So I don't work, I can't physically do much, and so I'm pretty much, I wouldn't say I'm destitute, but I am poor. I get government grants, money from the taxpayers, disability money, and it does not provide everything I need to support a family and myself. So I do my I've got my website. I take clients. I was told recently by the benefits system that I have to declare any clients I have, because if I get any money to support myself, I have to declare it so they can reduce the money they'll give me.
Oh my goodness.
So I don't get enough clients to factor that in. I don't get enough money to support my family in such a way. My partner, she works, I think she's doing 4 days a week. She delivers milk, organic milk, to customers.
Wow.
And she gets paid very little, to be honest. And and that still does not cover all our bills, all our debts, food. So we do what we can, and it's just a shame that the system is so broken.
Yeah, that really is. Wow. Well, we're certainly glad you're here today. And yeah, just so grateful that you went through what you went through to be able to tell your story. Before we get to that story, I've got one more question. My mom passed away of cancer. She was diagnosed at 38, 39, I think, with breast cancer. She did chemo. She did enough radiation that you could do in a lifetime that she couldn't do it towards the end anymore. I saw front row what was going on with the treatments,
Yeah,
with the medications. This was like the early days of OxyContin, so they were prescribing it like Skittles
yeah.
basically and telling her to chew them. And what I witnessed, what I would say, even back then when I didn't know hardly anything about this, is I would say that she was killed by the treatments, not
Yeah, by the
necessarily the
cancer.
disease itself. I saw her waste away with every treatment that she got, and she looked more and more and more sick. With what you've gone through and now working with other people, would you agree or disagree with that statement?
So one of the biggest factors in me changing my decision, because I actually didn't want to do any radiotherapy or chemotherapy. I never agreed to, but they fast tracked me into the system straight away. But what scared me the most is my memory when I was quite young, I think 15, 16, when I went with my mum to see my grandfather. He had liver cancer, which spread all over his body. He was on his deathbed, palliative care, and we went to see him one last time. He didn't recognize my mother. He had no idea she was there. He was skin and bones. He could not see any muscle, fats. And yeah, witnessing that at such a young age, and when I got cancer, and when I thought about all the treatments, and it just scared the shit out of me. I had to do research. I said, what can I do that's out there? And we were brought up alternatively. So we had homeopathy. We believed in healthy food, all these things. And so I was, yeah, it's just a shock to the system to see that people just get decimated by it's radiotherapy, chemotherapy, poison plus radiation to the body. It's going to cause more problems than it is going to cure problems.
Yeah, that again, that was my experience of what I witnessed. So it's interesting to hear your opinion on that. So let's go back to your personal story. What was your life like before diagnosis?
I thought I was eating the right kind of food. I was having, it's kind of like an Italian style diet where you have lots of pasta, bread. Well, I'd say it's the American style diet. In fact, we weren't eating too many sweets, but in fact, no, because I was working at the time, we were having, sandwiches for lunch and general snacks. It wasn't real food. I would try and wake up and make real food, but it was a lot more effort and it cost more money to do it. So it wasn't substantial, it wasn't practical at the time. So I was working at the time. I was doing in the garden center. I was it was the first real job I had in my life because I was a bit of a waster. I smoked cannabis from the age of 12 to the age of 21. And then when I gave all that up, I found love. It was really funny. The whole time I was doing that stuff, I felt really lonely and really, I wanted love, but I couldn't reach for it because I was always high. I was always insecure. I'd found a girl that I fell in love with. We both quit college. We both went to get jobs. We were like, hey, let's start our lives. So I got my first real job. 6 months in, I started experiencing headaches and migraines. And one day I had a click in the neck when I was doing some watering of the plants. And I got vertigo. I was spinning around, but I was standing stock still. And so my dog's getting right in the microphone. Go away, Moss. Go away. So yeah, that happened the first time, and then I ended up having like a week and a half off. And my employer got a bit pissed off, and he said, basically, what are you doing? I said, I'll be back next week. So I started working again, and it was the height of summer. I think it was June, July, when I finished work, and I walked to meet my partner because she worked in a supermarket nearby. She was late picking me up, so I decided to walk and meet her at the big road, the main road. There was cars waiting for me to pass, so I ran through this space. It was a country road, and I got to the other side, took a drink, and as I reached back, my neck crunched like a big click, and my jaw sagged, my arm sagged, and I was like, I'm having a stroke. And I was like, I'm a bit too young to be having a stroke. And obviously, prior to that, in fact, I'd gone to my doctor and said, I'm having these migraines, these weird sensations. What is it? And they said, it's a migrainous aura. So it's just an aura of migraines, which I kind of accepted and moved on with my life, tried to deal with it. And obviously this happened and I said, this isn't right. And I kind of Googled a few things and it kind of came up either cancer or epilepsy or something worse. And I was like, okay, there's a problem. I'd like to request a MRI scan because it's all in my head, something's happening. So it took me a while to get referred. I think it was like a month to get referred. So I've been working on and off for that time. And once I got there, it took 6 hours for them to diagnose me with a CT scan. So I was waiting around in the hospital doing nothing for 6 hours. And they came back and said, there's a hazy patch, but I don't think it's anything to worry about. It's probably just movement in the scan. So I went home thinking, oh, I'm okay then. And then I think I was getting ready for my older sister's wedding as we were shopping a lot. And I was feeling more and more fatigued and more kind of sensitive in my head, having pain, lots of problems, lights were causing issues. And I was in a car one day and I think we were heading to do some shopping and I got a call from the hospital saying, we'd like you to come back in for an MRI scan because we believe you probably have brain cancer. So, I had like a biggest shock of my life because I thought everything was fine.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I went back in for the MRI scan and they said, yeah, there's a definite area of concern. So there's a white patch. They said it's about a couple of centimeters. I think it was 4 millimeters, sorry. So it wasn't huge, but it was getting there. I know it's 4 centimeters. Sorry, it was. So they said you would like to book you in for an what's it called, a biopsy. So that happened in September. So obviously from July to September was a long time to wait. And in that period of time, I was just on the computer, on the laptop every night, just staying awake till about 4 or 5 a.m. and going to sleep. And then the next day doing more research. Because there was nothing, I was looking up natural cures because I was brought up on homeopathy and, the way of spirituality as well. So it's like, what can I do? What can I do that's more than what I'm being told is possible? So I'd done a lot of research and there's things like apricot kernels, which is arsenic, essentially kind of poisoning the cancer. There's lots of natural cures out there. There was juicing, there was things, but they were not really applicable. They were more applicable to body cancers. So I was like looking specifically at something that could heal the brain. And there wasn't much. And I stumbled upon a ketogenic diet for children with epilepsy. So I kind of looked more into that. And through word of mouth, my family, I think it was my gran or my mother, there's a health food shop in Totnes, which is like a hippie capital of Devon, where I live. And there was a woman in town who had been doing ketogenic diet for her low-grade brain tumor. And one day I was in the same shop and there's a woman in the shop. She said, hey, Pablo, go talk to that woman right now. So I went to speak to her and she kind of basically settled it in my mind that it was the right thing for me to do. I'm sure there's probably a blank period where I'm getting it all wrong, but there was, I did a macrobiotic diet for a little while as well. And in my research, obviously found ketogenic diet, but we weren't sure of it until I met this woman. And obviously, I think it was after September, after I'd had my diagnosis, and in the surgeon's room where they said they came in, basically, I'm not going to tiptoe around this. I said, well, is it grade 4? Because I kind of had a feeling it was the worst kind. And he said, yes, it's glioblastoma multiforme, grade 4. It's fairly big, and we would like to get you onto oncology. And I think in that moment, there was a kind of, I don't know, when you have a big shock, it's like everything slows down, everything's a bit more vivid. There's more emotion, but you're kind of dead as well. So it's like you're stuck between places. That was my mom and my partner at the time. She was just my girlfriend, and kind of just holding her hands. And I look over and I see that they're suffering more than I am. Because I'm in this space between suffering, and I'm like looking at them, and I kind of felt love. And then I was like, I initially, my initial outburst was "fuck my life." I shouted, "Fuck my life." No, I said to myself, "This is the shittest thing that can happen in my life." And then I kind of went, no, because they're suffering. You know, I'm gonna try to live. I'm gonna try and learn to love this life more. I'm gonna embrace it. If I'm gonna die, I've got to do it right. I've got to do it like a warrior. So I kind of solidified that thought in my mind that there's something I can do. But I hadn't settled on a ketogenic diet by then, I think. Sorry, it's all modeled up. It was 9 years ago. It's like I've kind of learned to be present. So anything in the past does not matter. So yeah, my story's a bit backwards, but it doesn't matter. So yeah, essentially they sent me a letter, and I think it was like late October. So I thought I was meeting my oncologist, but in fact I was fast tracked into the system. So they said, I came in and they said, go to radiography. So I was going for the radiotherapy mask fitting because they have to secure you to a table to allocate the laser to your brain. Anyway, so I'd had the beard bigger than this. So, because I'd just been chilling out, not doing much, just not caring. So I had a big beard and they said, you're supposed to be shaven. And I said, I did not know because the letter said, just come in. So they ended up, I said, have you got clippers or whatever? And they went to look for clippers. They didn't have like hair clippers. So they came back with office scissors, really blunt ones. So I spent about half an hour having that hacked off by a nurse.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so it's already traumatic.
Just say that's probably not the best barbershop job out there.
No. So I went through the procedure of having the mask molded to the face. And then I got in the radiation room where they put you on the table, put it around your face, line you up to the laser, get all the measurements right. And a pit of dread was in my stomach, my abdomen. And I just said, I can't do this. I can't do this. I said out loud, and I was like, no, I need to speak to the oncologist because I thought I was going to meet her today. I really needed to speak to my oncologist. And they said, well, we'll get her on the phone. And I spoke to her on the phone and I said, I really need some answers. I need to know the side effects, what this is going to do to me, if it's going to help, how long it will give me. And so she answered as best she could. She said, statistically, you could have 12 to 15 months. You'll be doing 5 days five days of chemotherapy, 1 day of radiotherapy on Saturday, 1 day off. So it's like for 6 weeks. That was 6 weeks of my life would be just pure suffering. You may lose your hair. You'll become impotent, possibly. Your immune system will be shocked. And these are all things I was just taking off. This is not what I want. This is not what I want. I want to have children someday. I don't want to lose my hair. Look at it.
You're great
I've got
hair.
lots of it. And I just said, so if I was not to do it, she said, well, usually it'll be about 3 to 6 months prognosis. And I said, what about for me? And she said, because you're healthy in your body, 6 to 9 months. And then I asked about the ketogenic diet, and her answer was, it's not going to help you. There's no evidence to suggest that it's going to help you. I was like, but it's good for children with epilepsy. It's anti-inflammatory. She said, yeah, but there's no study suggesting that it's going to help. She would not give me an answer based on her opinion. It's always professional. There's no love, no understanding or compassion. So I basically said, I'm going to take my chances. I'm going to decline standard of care, and I'm going to go my own way. I'm going to live my life without suffering. I didn't consult with my family. I didn't consult with anyone else. I made the decision because obviously at the end of the day, it does not matter what they think or what they want from me. It's why I decide which matters for me. Because This is my life. It's not their life. Yeah, they may care and love me, but they're making decisions based on fear.
Yeah.
And I found that because I was writing a blog at the time, I started writing a blog, and one of my friends at the time, he was like a good friend through school, but kind of like not really a friend. He was wealthy and I was poor, so he kind of felt, we had a bond, but it wasn't really shared. So he helped raise money. He used his IT skills to do a GoFundMe, and he raised 11 grand in like a week.
Wow.
But when I made the decision to decline standard of care, and when I did my blog saying this is what I've done, this is what I'm doing, he said, I can't watch you die. So he severed all ties, and he didn't speak to me since. And when his funnily enough, his girlfriend, I think his fiance got stomach cancer or a type of body cancer. And he went to my mum because my mum held all the notes and like the work that I've done, all the supplements, all the kind of types of things you could do. And he asked her for some help. He didn't ask me. He went behind me and just said, what can I do? And then his fiance is still alive, very healthy. They're doing all the right things because I made a choice. Yeah, I reached out to him a while back, sent him a message on Facebook, and he still will not acknowledge that I exist.
Wow.
It's a shame. I don't know what happened. It's like he got really enraged and he decided, I can't forgive you for living.
Yeah, I mean, emotionally for the people around you, it's like you said, like your family was suffering more greatly than you were. It was probably emotionally too much for him.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that. I understood it then as well. It's just like, why can't you forgive yourself and forgive me and let it go? Because I don't care. I'm facing death every day because this is potentially not going away. So I've got to stay as alive as long as I can until there is a cure.
Yeah,
that's my goal.
Yeah, I love that.
Possible.
I love that. I love that. Okay, so one of my very favorite stories is of a plane ride that happened in New York City. Guy gets on the plane takes off. Here's a boom, and about 90 seconds later, the pilot comes on and says, "Brace for impact." So this plane is going to crash, and this guy is going to die, and he knows he's going to die. He's got a minute left, and what he described, knowing that he was going to die, he was a little sad. He was sad that he wasn't going to be around with his family, but he wasn't afraid. There was no fear. It was okay. Now, this was the plane that was commandeered by Captain Sully. So they landed safely, miraculously, and he lived. And ironically, got back on a plane that night to go home, which I'm going to walk or just get on another plane if that's the case. But anyway, it really changed his outlook, knowing that he was going to die. He lives his life a lot differently. So what was it like for you to hear that you were going to die?
I think initially there was rage, there was fear, and then there was anger at everybody. So I pushed people away to protect myself. It's like I don't want you to. I don't want to be hurting by my connection with you. So I pushed my mum away. I mean, we only just reconnected because obviously I did lots of things when I was smoking cannabis, like I was stealing money from her purse to pay for my addictions. I was lying to her. So I ended up leaving home at 17 anyway. So we'd just reconnected because I'd changed myself. I decided I'm going to love myself instead of fear for myself. So yeah, when I got with Rebecca, she invited us over for meals and stuff. So we just reconnected properly. There's more of a connection. But obviously this happened, and then I said, I don't want, I basically said, fuck off. I don't want to speak to you. I don't want your input because you're going to try and control what I want to do. But at some point after the rage subsided and the fear, I kind of gave up on that. I was like, there's more I can do. After that, I reconnected, and I've forgotten what the question was, to be honest.
Just that what it was like to have that feeling of you are going to die. Like we all are going to die.
There was obviously there was dread.
Dread.
But then there was courage that stemmed from that. So I literally went to the bottom of the well, and I found that there was a rope waiting for me. It was a path out that I had to find. So I clawed my way out of that fear and that despair. And I realized that the people around me are the people I need. I can't push them away because I will die. If I push them away, there's no support. And in fact, the fact that they cared so much and they put so much effort in is the only reason I'm alive. My mom is my financer. So basically she's got a kind of charity bank account. So anyone who donates can put money in that. So that it's separate from my life. So I don't have to go, oh, the government's going to take my money away.
Yeah, smart.
Things like that. She decided to take that on board, and she's compiled all the notes from every kind of nutritionist or oncologist we spoke to, the recordings she took. She said, "I'm coming. I'll record the conversation, so you don't have to worry." So I've had this support network. My wife, my now wife, she don't know. She's just accepted every little thing, every decision I've made. She's trusted it. She's not gone, oh, what if this happens and what if that? She just goes, I trust you. You make your choice because it's your life. And I'm sure she's suffered as much as I have because we're in love. It's such a, But she is such a strong person; it's unreal. She
Amazing.
does most of the raising of our children. I'm there emotionally for them and for her, but it's just I can't do the physical stuff. I can't always go out with them. I can't be there 100%. So she takes on the 90% that I'm not there.
Better than 0%.
Yeah.
Better than 0%. Okay, so maybe now would be a good time to. I think our listeners are pretty familiar with ketogenic diets and cancer and things like that. But now might be a good time. What were the things you learned about ketogenic diets? What is metabolic ketogenic therapy, and why do we think it works with treating cancer?
Okay, well, I mean, obviously, for brain tumors, glucose is a main source of fuel to feed it, to make it grow. So that made 100% sense. You know, when you cut out carbs to an extent that you're having less than 20 grams a day. I was doing a restricted calorie ketogenic diet, so it was 2,000 calories or less, and 20 grams of carbs throughout the day. So 5 grams per meal or whatever. When I initially got, because I used a charity called Matthew's Friends. They were an children with epilepsy charity in London, and the woman there, I've forgotten her name now, but she basically sent me a list of okay foods to eat, and I kind of cut that down. I went, I'm going to go seasonal, because I learned about the macrobiotic diet, and that was about being seasonality, basically. Eating only things that arrive in that season you're in. Winter, there's not much to eat. So I decided to cut out things like nightshades, high carb vegetables that were allowed. So that's seasonal. So I was very strict from the get-go. My first day, there was no food in the house. We had no money to buy food. So we had some celery sticks and some almond butter, and that's all I had for the first day. Basically, I got keto adapted, I think, within the first week. So I was measuring my blood glucose and my blood ketones, and I was getting pretty much a 1-to-1 ratio of both within the first week, because I had a fast metabolism back then. And I kept on doing this, the same. We were measuring food, weighing food, having lots of fat. So I was just drizzling olive oil and melting butter on every meal I had. We were steaming vegetables, so we didn't take out too much nutrients. And basically, yeah, for the first, I think it was 3 months, because I was having quarterly MRI scans. So within the first 3 months, I went for my first scan and came back stable, which was quite shocking. I was like, kind of felt good in myself. I knew things were working. I knew I was in the right therapeutic ketosis. But the first result was amazing. I was like, yeah, okay, this is going really well. So I just stuck to that. And I think the first 2.5 years, there was literally, they say it's stable, but what they mean is there's no real progression that they can measure over quarterly scans. So they would have to measure yearly to get any comparison to growth. So I think it was 2017, 16, 17. They said, yeah, it is growing. It's still stable. There's no real threat to your life. But I was having grand mal epileptic seizures pretty much. I don't know. At one point towards my first surgery, I was having them daily, nearly daily, twice a week, maybe 3 times a week.
Wow.
Which was a pain, because we would go out in the car, we'd do something, and I'd have a seizure in the passenger seat, grand mal seizure, and I would cause lots of problems to my body, which I think I'm experiencing now. So yeah, my life was pretty much a stress roller coaster. There's no freedom for it, but I was always quite present with it as well. So if a seizure was happening, I would, instead of going, it's going to take control of my body, I would try and counteract the seizure, which they tell you not to do. Don't try and control it. Don't do anything. But I would, because my seizures would pull me to the left, because it's in parietal lobe, so it affects my left side. So I would raise my left arm, put my hand on my head. No, I think I would do that and use my right arm to pull my head and do that, and just try and relax my muscles in my shoulder and stuff. And it worked quite a lot. So about, I don't know, 30% of the time I'd be able to stop a grand mal seizure from happening, but I'll be exhausted.
Wow.
So even though I was doing the ketogenic diet, it was not stopping my seizures. Because, yeah, I think there's something to do with my brain, but I can't really, no one can tell me exactly why I was having so many seizures. It's just the pressure on the brain. But yeah, I stayed on that diet, ketogenic diet, for Yeah, till 2018. So in 2018, after my first operation, actually my first operation 2017, I think it was in January or February, no, March 2017, I had a weight craniotomy. Obviously, my tumor was inoperable in 2014, so there was no way they could remove any. So that's why I basically said, I'm going to take my chances.
And so, okay, so great point. So at this point, do you think the diet helped it to become stable or shrink down enough so that they could later on, years later, do that and try to remove some?
They basically said it changed shape in some form.
Wow. Wow.
Sorry, I've got to take a moment because I'm having talking a lot, so I think I've hyperventilated, so I need to take a breath.
Take a break. Take your time.
Might just go and stand on the grass. I'll be right back.
Take your time.
I think there's a bit of trauma that comes with talking about the surgeries. Emotional
I'm
trauma.
Yeah, I'm sure. You okay?
Yeah, it's I like consciously I feel calm, but
Okay.
subconsciously there's stress, there's fear.
Yeah.
So I had, I think, a panic attack because my whole body was in a state of shock.
Wow.
So I ended up just sitting on the grass, cross-legged, and bending my head over my legs.
Wow.
It's
Wow.
mad.
Yeah.
Also, talking doesn't help.
Yeah, and you've done a lot to it today, it sounds like.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's quite late for me as well. So
Yeah.
the issue. I can't remember where I was. I was at the first operation.
We were at the first operation, and yeah, if you would like to just kind of breeze through it, you're more than welcome. We don't have to go any.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I'll just mention kind of the fact of that because Seyfried gave me some really good advice. He said, be in therapeutic ketosis before the surgery, and another oncometabolic nutritionist basically said to take high doses of boswellia, curcumin, and a few other things prior to going into surgery, and coming out to take high doses of boswellia and curcumin. And I also took so basically I went in feeling really good. In fact, the whole time they were like they were saying, because obviously they ask your number, your hospital number every time. And I was just like, it's F21 something. Every time they'd ask, I was just like, there you go, because I've heard it so many times. And I was singing the Gayatri mantra in my head whilst I was talking to people. So this was something I used to do as a kid. I used to go to things called bhajans with my family, and we'd just sing these mantras. So I did that throughout the process of even being in the surgery room, because obviously I was awake. So I was just doing this constantly to keep myself kind of in tune.
Yeah. Wow.
So obviously the surgery was a complete success. They debulked about 72%, something rough figure. They told me it was more, but I spoke to a radiographer, Seyfried's colleague, and he said it was a lot less than they actually said. But after that, because I did such a strict diet and I kept very strict with it, there was no visible sign. So it basically dissolved. The rest of it disappeared. And that was when I started to be a bit more lax on the ketogenic diet. So I basically had way more calories than I should have, than my body needed. It's like, yeah, I can enjoy myself. And within 2 years, I gained 2 stone weight. I was 13 and a half stone.
Wow.
I was usually, before then, I was about 10 and a half. So I gained a lot of weight. I was having too much fat. I was having too much food, too many calories. And people were saying, oh, you look really healthy. You've really beefed out. I've never been like that. I've always been a lean person. So I think it was October 2018. I went to London to do a speech at a conference where I met Thomas Seyfried and Misha Sakharov, who helped me on my next stage of my journey. So yeah, he was there drinking Guinness, and he asked me, "Do you ever indulge yourself in, a glass of wine or anything. And I said, no, I adhere. And he basically, so you're compliant, 100% compliant. I said, yeah, I've got to be. He said, well, that's good. That's good. Most people aren't. Most people have to have something, a crutch. My crutch was kind of having coffee or a hot chocolate, something like that. So yeah, I did my speech, and prior to going up to London, I had a scan that September. So I think did my speech. I met Misha Sakharov afterwards, and he said, if you ever need help, I'm doing something completely different, using breathing techniques and carnivore diet. So when I got, I think the following year, I think it was January, I got my MRI result. They said, yeah, it's a reoccurrence, so it's come back. There's about 3 centimeters, something like that. And I said, well, what are we going to do? And by then we'd actually, prior to that, we'd had a baby, our first baby, which was a shock. It was an accidental pregnancy, but we took the courageous choice to embrace life more by having a child, because it makes you wake up to the fact that there's more to life than by giving life to the world. It's going to solidify my connection to Earth, isn't it? So that we kind of made this decision. It was a big decision. Like we either don't have this, but we were both against abortion. We're like, it's natural to have a baby. I said, if I die, then they'll know that I tried to live. I was a warrior. Wow. I'll be an example for them in death. I made that choice. But yeah, the following year we got the reoccurrence, and I said, "Oh, what are we going to do?" And then I remembered Misha Sakharov, Russian fellow. He's a really nice guy. He used to train semi-professional football players, and he was a tennis coach, a semi-professional. He actually had sudden athlete death at some point because he was working his body too much, and he said something's wrong. So he decided to look at the full spectrum of why that was happening, and it's the fact that he was pushing his body beyond its natural limits. You don't need to do as much. You can do very little and get the same results. So he kind of he looks at the other side of the coin, basically, and he changed his whole outlook. And he met me. Basically, he did a little video beforehand, which he showed me later on, which is him saying, "I'm going to meet this guy, Pablo Kelly, who's a fucking legend. he's outlived the prognosis of death. I mean, this guy, he's on it. He's good." And actually, at the conference, he was going to do a recording of me, and I said some really insightful things. And he said, "I didn't press record." He's like, "Can you do it again?" I was like, "I don't think I can," because I was in the flow. I wasn't, this is now unnatural. So anyway, I called him up on WhatsApp and I said, I need help. And he said, just drop all the supplements, go carnivore. So just eat red meat, eat organ meats. You don't need any supplements. Bone broth, lardo, simple as that. And I got on his program and he basically did it for free. Said, "I really want to help you because what you're doing is groundbreaking, staying alive." So he really helped me out. And I did Buteyko. Basically, there was a program. It's called Beat Brain Tumors. He's got a website called sakharov.com. And he's just a really, really nice man. He's kind of in his latter life. And he's full of love. And you see, he's every so often he just contacts me and says, "What are you doing, man? You're well." But yeah, so I went on the carnivore diet. I transitioned quite easily. I just went cold turkey on supplements and on vegetables. And as soon as I started that, I had completely stable scan results. There was no change. And that went on for over 2 years.
Wow.
At some point, my because obviously I've had epilepsy the whole time. And I forget to mention that the whole time was a big struggle of trying to control them, trying to relax myself, trying to find a way to counteract what's happening in my brain. So it's usually based on breathing techniques, lowering my body to the floor, lowering the pressure on my heart to pump blood around my body, just using biohacking techniques, basically. Whatever I could figure out, I used. And half the time it worked, the other half it didn't. I had a lot of seizures, I had a lot of mishaps, but I learned from it. And I kind of gained this courage, this pure, sheer willpower to fight through anything. So there's one point where I had a marching seizure, which lasted more than 10 minutes. So I was there, I was convulsing on the floor, no one was around. I was in a bedroom upstairs by myself. I'd I was fully conscious and having a seizure. I could not move. I could not do anything. I couldn't speak, couldn't cry for help. But what I could do was calm my brain, calm the conversation in my mind going, fuck, what's happening? Oh no, panic, fear, the flight mode. So as soon as I gained a handle on that, I kind of became partially disabled. So I could not move my left side. So my left arm, my left leg were completely dead. So I clawed my way out of that. It took me about half an hour. And I really needed to wee. So I managed to claw my way to the bathroom and I couldn't sit down. I couldn't sit. So I just ended up just kind of resting my head on the windowsill and going to the toilet, which took me about 20 minutes. And then I managed to get downstairs again, went to my neighbors, said, can I just sit down? I banged my head really hard. Can I have an ice pack? I can't move. I can barely do anything. And that was around the time when my second operation became available. They said, yeah, the pressure on your brain is causing lots of problems. So I kind of went into it with the same sort of courage, but there's a lot of anticipation and fear because from what I'd found out, second operation can be worse on the body and the recovery is a longer time. So yeah, I was a bit concerned, and obviously the seizures were a big problem. So I think my whole mindset changed a bit. So I was a bit more fearful of what was happening, because obviously there was growth at the tumor at the time. So I went into that. And during the surgery, they nicked a nerve ending. Whilst I was doing one of my exercises, they said, "Can you touch fingers left to right?" So do all the fingers like this.
Yeah.
Back, and I said, "I can't move my hand. My hand's not there. It doesn't exist." And they said, "Right, we're going to stop the surgery." So I've still got issues. Like when I touch these fingers, there's a lack of connection. Feels like I'm not fully touching. There's and afterwards I had to do a lot of training of closing and opening and physio to try and regain the connection, which I'm still struggling with. So every time I do have auras, but I've not had a grand mal in over 2 years now.
Wow.
Which is really good. I had one which came on so suddenly. I ended up just waking up and going, "What's happened?" It wasn't like I didn't have the convulsions where I'm conscious for a while. I'm kind of, it's sort of not breathing, not able to breathe, not able to. My body's making non-committal sounds that I don't want to make.
Yeah, wow.
So it was just really quick. I went to the door to get some fresh air, and then I woke up with a scratch on my back.
Wow.
So that's 1 in 2 years. It's pretty fantastic.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And I've been pretty much carnivore. Like when I came out of my surgery, I was keto again, so I was eating vegetables. I was trying to keep my energy up. But I went back into carnivore because I think it's a lot simpler. There's less. Obviously, it's cheaper. So what my family can eat, what they need to eat, and I can eat what I need to eat, which is just meats and meat and onion at the minute, and herbs and spices.
That's great.
And fat,
yeah,
and liver and fish.
Do you think you'll be on the carnivore diet for the rest of your life?
I think it's a no-brainer. In fact, I'm still. Part of me wants to keep hold of the cooking because there's lots of flavor, but I know that if I went raw carnivore, I'd be getting a lot more nutrition. There'd be less interactions in my gut that would cause sensitivity in my brain. So it's kind of a no-brainer, but there's part of me that's resisting. It's like I've got to have some pleasure in life.
Yeah.
But I did raw carnivore at the behest of Misha Sakharov at one point, and I did it for 2 weeks, and I was just eating like chuck steak, a little bit of onion, which a little bit of raw onion and some melted butter and salt, and I really enjoyed it. And I thought, the vegetarian part of me was disgusted, but the carnivore part of me was like, this is really good.
Wow. Did you say raw onion?
Raw. Raw onion with just to kind of balance out the flavor. What I ended up doing instead was getting what's it called, like things like sauerkraut or pickles,
Yeah,
instead, because I think raw onion's a bit strong. It's too much of a flavor.
It's pretty strong, dude.
But like to get over the mouthfeel and the flavor, there's like to kind of blank that out was the onion, the raw onion. But pickles are a lot easier to do.
Wow. And I have also heard that through your change in diet, you've been able to change the diet of many other people around you, correct?
Yeah. My mother is, she does a lot more than me. She's very strict, but she's obviously older. She's got more discipline. So she pretty sure she does like raw eggs in the morning. She fasts longer than I do. She does day water fasts. She does a lot more than I do. And she was a vegetarian for 45, 50 years.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
So when I was born, she was vegan. So she kind of blames herself a little bit for me having such a weak outlook or, immune system, body, whatever that created this cancer. But I can't blame her for that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of ideas about why cancer forms, especially in the brain. And I think I had some very big head injuries that I didn't go and get checked out. So I fell on my head from a wall. I kind of rolled backwards down a wall because someone yanked my leg out. And I rolled backwards down this kind of slanted wall, and I landed straight on my head in the area where the tumor is. And, that could have triggered something.
Yeah, it could.
But we
Absolutely.
don't know. There's no way of kind of guessing. So I kind of leave it in the past. I don't go, why has this happened? I go, what can I do now?
Yeah.
And every time I've had a shock, like, oh, it's growing again, you've had a reoccurrence, I go, what can I do? Not why has this happened to me? Or I'm a victim. I can't play the victim anymore. I've got to play the courageous warrior that fights it. That gets my spear and hunts the animal, that makes something out of it, protects my family, that lives.
That's amazing. Wow. What a beautiful way to approach life. I want to go back to the story I was mentioning earlier of the guy who knew he was going to die and he ended up not dying. He goes home and now he has what he calls a bad wine collection, meaning he'll always use the best wine. If somebody comes over for lunch or it's a Tuesday or for no occasion whatsoever, life is limited. He recognized it. He was going to die and then didn't. And it changed the way he lived after that in a kind of what I would say like a similar way, like a warrior. Like you now appreciate the best things in life.
I've been in this battle so long now. 9 years is a very long time to be in the same battle, fighting for life. And I'm not phased by much. So we had a car accident not long back. So my son was born. He was an infant and we had to go and get some essentials because we didn't have nappies. It was middle of COVID, so we weren't really allowed to do much. And when lockdown was lifted, we're like, okay, we can go and get some stuff. And a motorcyclist, a dirt bike, he was going off-roading. There's this kind of horrible junction where there's a slip road that comes into oncoming traffic. So we're coming up and there's a slip road that goes into oncoming traffic. So we kind of edging up to stop at this junction. And he decided to just bomb it towards this dirt track, which is adjacent to where the slip road is. And he came flying and just hit the side of my car just in front of where I sit. And I got really angry. I was like, what the fuck? And my door was actually caved in, but I just shoved it open, got out, used my anger. And I went to look at him because he kind of ragdolled into a hedge. And I realized that he wasn't okay. So I went and I acted and I said, right, we better get him safe. Look after this guy, call the ambulance, So like, I've learned to not run away. I've learned to act. So every time something happens that's dangerous, I react in such a good way that everyone's safe.
Wow.
It's instinctual now. It's not like, fear is not my main, what's the word? Not like my main fuel. Most people live in fear of everything, future, past, money, the relationships. I don't fear for any of that anymore. I can't, there's no reason to. If I do, that's basically like dying.
Yeah.
Accepting that death is the option, the only option.
Yep. Wow, that's amazing. You've mentioned your children, you now have two. What are some of the lessons that you want to pass on to them?
Just this the way to eat. The way to eat. Unfortunately, we've incorporated complex carbohydrates into their diet. We don't feed them crap a lot. But because I don't babysit a lot, because when I was having seizures, the height of my seizures, I could not look after children. So we use Rebecca's mother. She looks after them when she's working. So they've had a taste of sweets. They've had a taste of sugar. Luna, my daughter, when she was raised, she was having she was having things like eggs. She was having meat. She was eating exactly what we were eating. But as soon as carbohydrates gets involved, that triggers addiction. So they're addicted to, I want chips, I want this, I want that. And we try to say, eat your egg, eat this, but we can't force them to do anything now. So when they're older and they understand a bit more, we will say, this is how we're eating. and you don't have a say in it because it's going to help you heal.
Yeah.
So yeah, Malachi, unfortunately, he's had a lot more less nutritious upbringing, but he is really healthy and he's very progressed. He's 2 and he's conversing with us, like an adult almost.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's amazing. So like the last time I cheated on the carnivore diet, I was on a vacation. I had a burger. The burger had a bun. I had some French fries. I could not stop eating the French fries. I ate the whole thing. And it's just, it's weird to like relearn those lessons. Like, oh yeah, I can't moderate. I do have an addiction of some kind. I need to be more strict. And anytime I do, I feel good. And if I deviate, my anxiety comes back. And I don't sleep that well. And the craving for more of that food, like looking around for fast food takeaway, like whatever you can find, it increases so much that I have to fight it the next few days. It just makes it not really worth it. Is your motivation strong enough that you can really stay?
Like I said, I had that one incident where I had a grandma because of chocolate cereal, and that shocked me so much. It's I cannot deviate anywhere beyond what I'm doing. And when it came to transitioning to carnivore, I was like, oh yeah, I might miss all this stuff, but it's not important. It's not going to heal me. It's not going to give me more life if I stick to my addictions. Because I give up smoking. I was smoking tobacco and cannabis for from 12 to 21. So I don't know how many years that is, but that's quite a lot. Nearly 10 years of my life was spent smoking and addicted to alcohol, partying, taking ecstasy, doing drugs. The lifestyle of I'm a supposed hippie, but I don't really care about anything. It's all about how I appear and how cool I can be.
Yeah.
And when I quit that was one of the hardest things I had to do. But I realized that all my relationships with these people were toxic, and they may despise me now for saying that, but it's the truth. I can't deny it. I can't say we were really good friends and you really care about me, because none of them do. As soon as I got cancer, they kind of it triggered something in them. They didn't care anymore. He's not doing drugs with us. Why does he matter? He's not important. Once I realized that, I said, I've got to cut out anything toxic. So that's literally everything. Nightshades are quite poisonous. What's the point in eating them? They have a counterintuitive reaction in the body. I was like, I can't have that on a ketogenic diet. So I cut out all the negative things that would impact me. So relationships, everything. It's just like, it was easy. I just let it go. So I don't have any, right now, I can safely say I don't actually have any friends, because there's no one I can connect with on the level I'm at. And not to say that I'm enlightened or I know better. It's just that I'm at a level where I don't want to be fake. I don't want to pretend to like someone just because everybody else does. It's not my path anymore. And I'm not lonely. I talk to lovely people all the time, and they respect me, and I find that there's mutual compassion there and love, because these people are suffering going into their cancer diagnosis, and they need something that gives them hope. So at some point, after I started writing my blog as a cathartic thing for me to get rid of my anger, my stress, my fear, and people are like, wow, I can resonate with this because I'm human. I feel the same things, but I'm not willing to share it. So I just started sharing my shit, letting my baggage go. And I don't even care if someone goes, oh, he's a liar, he's a thief, he's whatever, he's trying to kill people. Sometimes it does hurt when someone says, oh, this guy's causing people to kill themselves, by suggesting that there's more to do with cancer care than just chemo and radiotherapy.
Yeah, that's right.
And it shocks me that people would say that, but people are so indoctrinated by a system that does not care that they just can't question it. And I understand that too. So I don't hate people that say, oh, he's wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, I may be wrong in their eyes, but that doesn't matter. It's not for me to say what they should believe or not.
Yeah.
Just we're being lied to so much that we believe whatever we're told. Unfortunately, I did these drugs and I opened my mind. I did magic mushrooms. I kind of became aware that there's more to me than just this body and what I do and who I associate with and how I feel. Feelings aren't the be all and end all of existence.
Yeah, it's amazing that you've done that. Yeah, it's just amazing you've done that deep work and have been able to connect with yourself in a way that now you're able to share the message. Listening to you chat with Dr. Anthony Chafee on the episode you did of his podcast, of Plant Free MD, you hear also the people that were helped and healed by this diet and way of eating And after a while, it was so hard for them to do it that they stopped doing it and they digressed and people died. And it's like, I realize for some
It's not
people,
a choice.
yeah, yeah, it's just, yeah, it's really amazing. And it's, excuse me, send a voicemail, sorry. I just, yeah, I think your, I think your personal example is, excuse me, right at the end. I just think your personal example is incredible for those out there who are seeking help. I think your example for your children and your family and the people around you, maybe it is difficult to not have, lots of friends that are on your level, but like you said, it's not like you're lonely. And to think what would have happened, 9.5 years ago, if you would have just agreed to everything, you wouldn't be here now. And who
There's no
knows
part
how,
of me that believes that if I made the opposite choice to what I made, that I'd be alive. I don't think I would be alive because
yeah,
the amount of suffering you go through, chemotherapy, radiotherapy, the shock to the body, to the immune system, to the temple that's supposed to be, looked after, would have killed me. And I've spoken, Seyfried, there was the longest known survival with GVM. It was 6 years, and that was over 3 years ago. And basically, he ended up going back to work on his vineyard. The stress of the work got to him, and his tumor came back because he was doing very clean diet. He was doing what I was doing, and he'd managed to maintain his life for 6 years with terminal cancer, no chemotherapy, no radiotherapy. And then he went back to work, and then he said, I don't have time for this cancer business. So he went and he did radiotherapy, and within 6 months, he was dead.
wow.
And Seyfried truly believes that the radiotherapy is what kills people. The radiation, the chemotherapy, the poisoning of the body,
Yeah,
is what kills people. So why not incorporate a diet that doesn't hurt you, that can only make your body stronger, even through chemotherapy and radiotherapy? I mean, Andrew Scarborough is a prime example of someone who's survived and thrived. He had a low-grade astrocytoma, and there's no visible sign of his cancer. It's disappeared. It's gone. And he's very good at what he does because he's a medical student. He took his understanding of science and applied it to his diet.
Amazing. Yeah, that's amazing. Well, we need all of you to be getting this message out. And I sure appreciate you and your time to be able to do that here on our podcast today. That was a really powerful episode. Where would you like people to go to find you, to connect with you and your work?
Well, there's obviously Patreon is really good because people can help me out financially. I've got a link for that. I'll share that with you. And obviously my website, if they need help, that's the prime place to go because they can book an appointment. Obviously my Facebook blog, there's Twitter, there's YouTube and Instagram. I'm on all of them. Should be able to find me just using my name, but yeah,
Excellent.
I need all the help I can get because I'm in a position where I got a certain amount of money. There's employment support allowance, which is a money they give you to supplement basically work. And they've taken most of that away from me because my partner was earning, she was earning £21 over the limit. So like £1 over the limit of what we're allowed to earn. So they're taking 70% of that money away. So we're struggling so much.
Yeah,
And unfortunately, my community of people on Facebook, I basically say, if anyone can help, please help. And I ask for help, and people donate money left, right, and center, which is really nice.
Yeah.
It gives us financial stability to buy food, to pay for electric, to try and pay because during COVID, I stupidly borrowed money from like PayPal, got PayPal credit and things like this, so we could buy stuff we needed online because we had no money.
Yeah.
And now I'm in debt about $4,000.
Wow.
And we don't earn enough money to pay any of them back. So I'm constantly overdrawn. And people help me out. So it's like I'm always in deficit.
Yeah. Wow.
And it's money is the only thing that stresses me out. Everything else I couldn't care less about. It's just money, this thing that we need to survive that I'm being given very little of because I can't work. It's just ridiculous. The system is so geared towards greed.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. Your whole story illustrates that. I will tell you, I would be more than happy to contribute. And I really encourage our listeners to do the same. I will be sure to link that up in the show notes so people can get there very easily and they can contribute to that. They can do that internationally, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you my PayPal link as well because it's just, it's easier for people to do. If not PayPal, I'll give you my bank details because if people really want to help, I need it. I mean, I'm not asking because I'm greedy and I want
Yeah.
lots of money. I'm going to spend on frivolous things. I just need it for food, for bills, to pay off my creditors, and to try and survive. Because like, if we can't, basically, there's certain days where the money goes out and there we need to buy food that day, and I can't buy food, so I have to beg people on the internet for money so we can buy food. It's like ridiculous kind of loop that I'm stuck in.
Wow.
And I'm hoping that one day I can write my book. I've got like 60 pages of a book written. It's quite hard for me to keep going because my word finding, because of my parietal lobe cancer, is very difficult. So it's very frustrating, and I don't know where to go with my story, whether it's got to be first person, third person, or because I want it to sell so I can make money for my family and, you know, move out of the situation I'm in.
Yeah, well, I hope that gets out there and helps tons of people, and that you can be helped financially. Like I said, I really encourage our listeners to use those links and help contribute to do. Pablo Kelly, thank you so very much for everything that you do, and thank you for taking the decision to go the harder route and be brave. We really appreciate you and your work, and thank you again for taking time to be on our show today. We really appreciate you.
Thank you. Yeah.
And this has been another episode of Boundless Body Radio.